What is up, everybody? So in this video we're going to be doing a side job and not working on the Honda. So I got somebody's Traverse that I'm going to pull in here, and I'm going to do a radiator on it. It's a 2011, and I think they all have the same radiator, but I'll show you guys exactly what this one looks like, and you guys can try to do this yourselves and save yourself some money. The radiator from GM is probably $200 to $250, and the labor on this I think is about 3 or more hours to do. So at 3 times 125, you're looking at, about $400 just for labor alone, and then for parts too, you're looking at a $600 or more job. So if you can get this radiator for cheap, whether you buy it aftermarket, this is actually a GM. We got a good cost on a GM radiator, so we're going to do that for him and get this thing fixed up. Obviously, you know it's leaking from the radiator if it's pouring out of the front of the car. There's not really else much there. You could check the lower radiator hose or an upper to make sure that they're not the clamp hasn't blown off or something like that. But for the most part, if you got a leak in the front, it's going to be the radiator. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing pulled in. I'm heating it up out here, and we'll see if we can get to work. Alright, so now that we got the car in here, you can see how bad it's leaking. We got coolant all over the ground. It's just pissing out right out of the radiator. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking this thing apart. So first thing you're going to do is remove this. There's a bunch of these little pop clips here. They've already been removed because I think somebody was messing with the radiator, and we did pressure test it the other day. So right here are the style clips. So you just pop the inner piece off, pop the other one out, and then they all come off, and this whole panel should come off just like so. I'm probably just gonna lean it up there for now. It should be out of our way. We do have to pull the front bumper off. Actually, I think somebody broke this. Yeah, this is broken. It's supposed to come off as a unit. Somebody snapped this. I don't know if it was the tow truck driver or if it already was snapped, but people can be animals. But here's the radiator right here. You don't want to open if it's hot, but we only started it for 2 seconds, so it'll be fine. But that's our radiator. So we're going to probably drain this from the bottom. I think I'll just pull off the lower hose and try to drain it into a bucket, and that way we can save most of this coolant because the jug is full, as well as the radiator probably has some left in it. So I'm going to go ahead and do all that, and we're going to basically pull off the front bumper and yank this thing right out from the front. So for this lower radiator hose, I have this fancy set of hose clamp pliers, but basically it grabs both ends of the hose clamp here with these little jaws, and when you squeeze, it squeezes it together like this, and then it locks. It's sort of like a ratcheting lock setup, and it holds that clamp tight so that you can go ahead and slide the hose off. It's pretty nice, convenient. You can just use needle nose pliers too, but if you do this and you actually want to be efficient at it, this is a nice tool. So yeah, this is a not necessarily something that your everyday mechanic backyard guy needs, but for me, being in the industry, we definitely make use of tools like this to make our job easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and get under there and see if I can get this guy latched on. I'll show you guys the hose. I'm right in the driver's front of the car here. The radiator hose is right there. You can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it off and try not to make too big of a mess here. Definitely a lot of coolant's going to come gushing out. And yeah, I just hope that it's not too much for my bucket. So to take off the front bumper, you're gonna have to do this right here. I didn't mention it, but I used some pinch off pliers right here, and I pinched off the hose there, which is pretty useful. It kept all the coolant from the engine from pouring out. So really, we didn't really get that much in the bucket at all, which is kind of nice. So yeah, we'll drain it when we're good and ready. Anyway, you gotta go Phillips. There's a Torx here, probably a T15 or 20. And then there's a 8mm down here on the underside coming up this way. And then there's a few more Torx. I think they're 15s as well. And then there's definitely some all along the bottom. And then we have these other Phillips here. And yeah, I'll let you guys know what I find down low. I think that there's probably going to be more Torx down there. And then we should just be able to pop this bumper right off. Unplug the fog lights, of course. Okay guys, I lied. It's actually two 7mm, and they're located, here and here. And once you take both of those guys out, the bumper just falls right down, and that's the best way to do it. And then you gotta go ahead and unplug both these lights here. And I have it loose on both sides right now. It's pulled off. It's just hanging on right here. So I'm gonna go have somebody help me, and I'll pull this thing off. So there are two Torx on the bottom of the liner down here. You can see the liner. On the underside, there's two Torx, and they're along the skirt here, along the front lip. So you get one here on the edge and one a little bit further in. And once you take those out, there's nothing else really on the bottom. And I did all these Phillips up top, and the two Torx on the ends, and two 7s on both sides. And then you just kind of yank on the bumper right here. You just pull, and it'll come right out. And then you go ahead and pull along this edge too. Just be careful that you're not bending it. Just pull evenly, and it'll pop off. And just look out for stuff like this. Just don't scuff it up too much when you're pulling it off. Get somebody to help. So I'm gonna get somebody to help me right now, and we're gonna go ahead and dive into this. So I got the bumper cover thrown over there. It's just two little clips here for the turns and little marker lights down there. And so I did both of those connectors. I actually did it myself. It's not too bad if you hold it in the center, and just threw it over some sawhorses. So now that we got that out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and take this upper section off here. This is what is gonna be in our way mostly. I think also maybe the latch we may have to move, but I think I'll probably move it at this location with those 4 bolts. We'll just move it out of the way if we can. That way we don't have to mess with the adjustment. If we do have to take this off, we can mess with the adjustment. We'll just mark it with a paint marker or something so we know where we're at. But otherwise, I'm gonna go ahead and take off these two 10s here. And then I think we have another 10 down here. And I think that might be it. There might be some more stuff here, but if this whole piece comes off, should be able to get clear access to the condenser here, which we're going to pull forward, and then we'll just yank out the radiator. So I'll show you guys right here what we're looking at. We've got these clips right here to get the condenser off. We got to squeeze this and pull, and we should be able to squeeze these two little connections here. And you see I pulled it right off. Now we're free and clear on that side. On this side we have the same thing going on, so we're going to do that on the top, and I think we have some on the bottom as well. There might be something else. Let's see. Yeah, we have, it's a slot, it's a groove, so you have to lift up and then it will come out. So we'll lift it up and we'll push it forward, and then we should be able to get to the radiator, which are held on by these two 10s here. One there and one there. And we're going to take off the upper hose, so we might get a little bit more leakage out of there. And I'm going to try to hold that radiator hose up, and then take this hose off and hold it up because the jug's full. So as long as we keep the level of this hose above this and keep it high, it shouldn't all leak out. So then we should be all set. We'll be able to use this coolant again. So yeah, we're good on that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off that upper hose and do the rest of this little quick work here to free up the condenser, which can kind of be a pain. That's why you got to take off the bumper. I tried to do this once without taking the bumper off, and it's just a pain to get at this condenser. You just can't get to it. It really isn't too hard to take the bumper off, and you're just better off doing that because it's much easier in the long run. And I forgot to mention these things too. You'll see this guy is in here like this, and the slot is covered by this, so you can't actually move it. So in order to fix that, you got to take these guys off. So I just pry them off with like a nice trim tool like this, and we'll be able to put them back on later. But you can use this or a screwdriver, pry them off. And then there's a couple of clips here. You can see they go down through the top right here, and there's another one here that goes that way. And so once you take those out and all three of those things, you can take that off, and then you have free access to move the condenser very easily. So I'm going to take this side off as well, and then I'm going to be have an easier time. I probably won't take it off because obviously the lines are connected here, but I'll just take those little things off to pull it back. Actually, this side might not be as much of an issue as the other side. I might not have to worry about it, so we'll see. Looks like I can move it, so might be okay. We'll see. Alright guys, so I got all that stuff off. These top guys, the bushings up here, and on the bottom, the bushing needed a little bit of help. I ended up using a pry bar to pry it out of its spot. Now that I have it out and it's ready to move, I forgot about the transmission cooler lines over here. No biggie. We got to get these guys out. So I ended up taking off the latch assembly from right here, because taking it off from here doesn't do anything because there's a support bar that goes all the way down. I don't feel like going down there, so I just took the latch off after marking it with some paint markers so we can put it back where it was. That way the hood will still shut nice and square. I don't think they care on this old car, but it's a good practice to get into. But now we got to work on these cooler lines, which are not too bad. I think I'm going to leave the fans on, pull it out, and then swap that over on the ground. But as far as these cooler lines, you got the little clip in here, which you got to use a pick for, and you're just going to have to pick that clip out of there, and then once you get that clip out, the line will just pop right out, and you want to put your clip back in, and then actually the new radiator will probably come with some new clips, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I unplugged the fan as well right here, pretty easy. So just, you know, unplug everything little by little, and you just keep wiggling it and pull up on it, and make sure you're not clipped in by the condenser, and this thing will pop right out, and it'll be a little bit more accessible for you to get to these cooler lines here, because these are a little bit hidden otherwise. So I've got the new radiator right here, and I'm going to go ahead and begin swapping all the parts. So I think that the only thing we really need to swap, it leaked all over the place unfortunately, but I think the only thing that we're going to need off of this guy is the fan. So I'm going to go ahead and take the fan out. I think it's just the the two 10 mils, and then it slides up out of the bottom, and we'll go ahead and slide it down onto this new one, and then we can go ahead and throw it in the slot and get this thing bolted and get it back on the road. So when taking the fans off, there's a couple more clips here and here. I ended up breaking both of them. They're pretty brittle, but you know, don't worry about it. You got two bolts and the two slides. It's not going to go anywhere. So that's the way it is. It's on there pretty good. You could throw a little zip tie through there or something like that if you wanted, but not too worried about it. So I got this all put on. I just got to tighten down the bolts. I put our shields back on with those little guys. I made sure that the fins on them, on those little circular clips, point outwards, so it has trouble sliding off, as opposed to the other way. It's really would be hard to get on. So I'm going to tighten all the 10s that are loose here. And this did come with new clips. So with these transmission cooler lines, when you're snapping them into place, you want to make sure that you don't see any yellow. So we're going back together now. Got everything all set up here. I think what I was explaining was the transmission cooler line clips down here. So it comes with new clips, and what you're doing when you push them in, you just want to make sure that you don't see any of the yellow, because there is yellow on the clip and it's right past the flange. So when you push that clip in there, if you don't see yellow, that means that you're not going to have a leak, and therefore it's pushed in all the way. And you also have to be able to get the plastic little clips over that section where the metal clips are. If they don't slide over easily, then there's definitely something wrong, and you need to make sure that your clips are tight. spin them around or do something to make sure that you can get those black plastic things on, because if those don't go on, then your clips aren't on good, and that's the safety for it. So make sure that's all good, and then snug everything up. I'm going to put this little piece here because it helps with the airflow directing it through, and then we should be good to go to throw the bumper back on. So you guys could do this the old-fashioned way and just fill up the radiator as best you can, and then fire it up and leave the radiator cap off and just try to burp it and get the coolant moving through. You gotta wait for the thermostat to open up and cycle, and then it's going to suck it all down. And they make specific funnel attachments on top that you can put on. They're not too much money. This is a bit more sophisticated of a tool. It actually pulls a vacuum in the system, and it will we'll squeeze this down. It uses compressed air, and it will pull a vacuum. And so it's going to continue to suck all the air out of the system. And once we have a good vacuum, I will purge it, and I'll suck the coolant in through this hose here, which I'll have in a bucket on the ground down here. And then we should have, in the end, an air-free cooling system. And that's the idea. So I'm going to let this thing pull a nice vacuum. Got the line purged right here, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the rest of the remaining vacuum down. It was pulled all the way to like 28, and I'm going to try to get it back there with the line purge, and then it seems like it held a really great vacuum, so we're going to be good to go on this. It's not going to leak, so I'm going to go ahead and continue to pull this vacuum until we get back to that 28 mark, and then I'll take this off, open the valve, and it's going to drink most of this coolant in here, and we'll see how much, hopefully we don't take too much. We do have a good amount in the jug, so that will backfill it as well. So that is it. I went ahead and started it up, pulled this thing outside of the garage, and I'm going to let it run for a little while and warm up. We got a really good vacuum. It sucked down almost all that coolant, so I know it basically filled the whole radiator. So we went ahead and put it all back together. Didn't forget any clips or a single bolt. Pretty straightforward job, guys. If you follow that, you can definitely do this on your own and save yourself a good amount of money. So yeah, don't hesitate to attempt something like this. We're going to make sure that we don't have any leaks, which I do not see any. It is totally dry under there, so that's awesome. Great news. I'll take it for a little test drive, and we'll check for leaks one more time, but I think we're going to be good to go. I think it was the radiator, so that's that. And thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you learned something and save yourself some money if you do attempt this. But yeah, this has been another little repair video. So thanks for watching. Consider subscribing. I have these and videos on this car over here, which is winterized, but it'll be back on the road shortly. So thank you guys for watching, and peace.